Hi guys. I will be recording this kind of videos talking about stick insects, insects or biology in general, because I want to practice my English. That would be the main reason. But also because I want to give you some tips about the breeding of stick and leaf insects. For the breeding of stick and leaf insects. If you're interested in breeding this kind of insects, I think you will find really useful the tips that I'm going to give you. And the first tip that I would like to tell you about is the placement of the leaves of the food, the plants, inside the cage. This might sound like like a not that important topic if you go to different sites about the breeding of these insects. If you read some like literature, if you search about the breeding of this insect, you won't find about this thing and the placement of the leaves of the food of the leaves inside the terrarium, and that's because it is not something you need to know, like a basic thing you need to know when starting to breed these insects or when starting to keep these insects, but it's something you learn with time, right? Like when you after you gain some experience, if after you breed some species of stick and leaf insects, you realize this is a really convenient thing to do. Now, as you can see, well, yeah, I'm going to explain what I want to explain to you. As you can see, my leaves, the food or the plants of this species are inside this water cup, or however you want to call it. I don't know if if I use the correct word right there, but well, yeah, are inside this water cup. And the reason of this is because the leaves stay fresh for a longer time, and so that you don't need to change leaves or change the food, um, like very often, right? Like leaves, at least for me, in my conditions, in my room temperature or whatever, uh, leaves stay fresh for at least 1 week. After 1 week, I need to change the leaves and do all the cleaning stuff that I do every week. Uh, but there's also a reason for doing or for placing the leaves, the food of the insect like this, because as you can see, placing the leaves in this cup allows you to accommodate. I don't know if that's a correct word, but yeah, to accommodate or to place the leaves in certain way so that they are like straight, or and they touch. They are in contact with both sides of the upper part of the terrarium, as you can see, and that's really useful because when you have really small nymphs, like I don't know, the freshly hatched nymphs of Ixatosoma tiaratum, for example. The thing with those nymphs is that um, they usually just after they hatch, they usually are really active and start like running like crazy all around the terrarium or of the cage, and that's a problem because sometimes they can't find the food, sometimes they can't find the plants, or they don't stay on the plants. And by doing this, you are forcing them to walk over the plants, the food, and eventually they will start to eat. This is also a helpful tip for phyllium species. For any phyllium species, for any leaf insect species, this is also really helpful. There's another technique that is actually recommended by the expert on the topic of on this topic on breeding stick and leaf insects. That is Bruno Neubuller on his page that is described on his page phasmatodea.com, phasmatodea.com, um, where he describes his technique. And basically, his technique is like, you could say, the opposite of this. He places the nymphs and the food inside a really big container, and he like directly put the nymphs, the insects, on the leaves so that they don't like stay in touch, or they can't reach the sides of the terrarium, so they can do that I just told you of. They their usual like behavior of running all around the cage. Um, so yeah, that's like his technique. And the thing with that technique, in my opinion, I mean, of course, it works, but with me, or the thing with that technique for me, is that well, sometimes the nymphs fall of the plants, and well, if that happens, of course, it would be like really lucky if that nymph uh, returns to the plants, right? Like to they fall off and they instantly like return, or to walk uh, into the direction of the plants and climb all over the plants again. It would be very lucky, right? So usually what happens is that the nymph falls off, and then they do what they like to do, and they start running like crazy all over the terrarium. And since the plants are not in contact with the sides of the terrarium, well, that's a really big problem. uh, so that's a problem from the start, right? That's what you wanted to avoid. So by doing this, by placing the food like this, I think that you can like avoid that kind of problem. And this is how I keep all my terrarium. This is how I place all the food of my terrariums, my plants and or whatever. You There's of course that other terrarium where you can see what I just told you. It's almost the same. Of course, since the insects in that terrarium are uh, bigger, or they are adults, this is not a problem, of course, because like adults usually also like if they don't find the food, the plants, they usually go in search for it. So that's not a problem, but of course I do the same, and that's also the same for that other terrarium. So as you can see, this is like not a secret or whatever. This is not something like, oh wow, you are like a real expert on this topic or of breeding stick and leaf insects, but it's really helpful, and I think it's of course helpful for you. And that's all for this video. I hope I didn't mess up with my English, or I didn't mess up a lot with my pronunciation or whatever. But yeah, I will be uploading more of these videos so I can practice and like refresh or my speaking abilities, because it's been a while since the last time I tried to speak in English. So yeah, that's why I'm will be uploading more of these videos. So yeah, see you in the next